I think we're almost everyone here, so welcome very much to this stand-up innovation event on Tomorrow Living. During this strange times, thank you for coming here. Anyway, Rainer Zeitling will afterwards explain again the corona procedure, but thank you very much for being here. My name is Helene Pattermann from Alchemia-nova. I do communications and host the events every few months, usually. Now we had a longer break. Just want to mention briefly the Wiener Dirndl. Many of you had the opportunity to taste it outside. It's an organic Cornell cherry drink from Vienna that is a nice organic alternative to other summer spritzer drinks. So we take photographs that will be published on our website and on Facebook afterwards to present the event. If you don't want to be in those pictures, please just raise your hand or stand up and we can consider it and not have you in the pictures. The film is only for the stage to have the speakers afterwards available. We are here at the Sophienspital, like an interim usage of this old hospital that will be transformed soon and for now hosts the IBA International Exhibition. And Rainer Zeitlinger from IBA will present shortly why we're here, what is happening around us.
Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Helene Pattermann already explained, while sitting on your seat, you can lift your mask. When moving around, please put on your mask your face shield. You have all a registered seat. This has been disinfected before, and I think we're safe for this evening. We have good air conditions, the weather is nice, we can keep the windows open, so I think we should not have a problem. As Mrs. Pattermann already explained, we are here in the West Space. It is a temporary use of the former hospital Sophienspital in Vienna's 7th district, and the West Space is now a presentation and communication platform for temporary offices, studio rooms, seminars, workshops, events, exhibitions, symposia, talks, and occasionally parties. We, as the IBA Vienna, the International Building Exhibition Vienna, are very lucky to be able to present our exhibition, How Will We Live Tomorrow, in the West Space until the 22nd of October. What is the IBA Vienna? IBA Vienna, IBA is the abbreviation for International Building Exhibition. The German word is Internationale Ausstellung. The tradition of building exhibitions has been existing for more than 100 years. In the middle of the 19th century, it became customary to present innovations in building technology at world exhibitions. Since then, there have been a number of international building exhibitions, and what they all have in common is that they all have been mirrors of their time in terms of social, technical, and cultural trends and developments. The IBA Vienna is the first international building exhibition to be launched in Vienna. The City of Vienna has set itself the task of developing groundbreaking solutions and approaches to the challenges of our time. The center of the exhibition is the issue of new social housing. The IBA Vienna is a multi-year process and lasts from 2016 to 2022. With this running period of only 7 years, the IBA Vienna is a rather short one, while most of the IBAs are running 10 years or more. The candidates and neighborhoods of IBA Vienna were defined until 2019, and at the moment we're counting 9 neighborhoods with more than 100 projects and 15 individual projects all over Vienna. Now in 2020, the intermediate results of the International Building Exhibition Vienna presented within our exhibition How Will We Live Tomorrow, and finally in 2022 most of the projects will be finished and can be visited as part of our final presentation. Houseful is one of our individual candidates, dealing with the topic of circular economy in the housing sector. The IBA Vienna supports Houseful in spreading the results of the research process, and as Houseful links ecological aspects in the use of resources and recyclable models in housing with social, cultural, and economical aspects, the project points to the future of our main topic, new social housing. To finish my introduction, a few recommendations what could be interesting for you within the upcoming program of our interim presentation the next weeks. For example, tomorrow there will be an online discussion in German, Mehr Grün, More Green, City Climate, Ecology and Neighborhood. Next Tuesday there will be a performance in the Sonnenviertel behind Vienna Central Station, My Last Car, Mein letztes Auto. And on Friday, for example, a city tour within the project Lila for Green. But now I wish you a pleasant and interesting evening with this Houseful Stand-Up Innovation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and we're very honored to be part of this IBA Wien exhibition with the Houseful project, and to have the great opportunity to be here today and host the event from this nice location. So what we have planned today is we have three speakers. Jürgen Preis from the City of Vienna, Vera Enzi from Grünstattgrau, and Teresa, my colleague from alchemia-nova, who will talk about tomorrow living from different aspects, from what the city plans, how green facades can be mainstream and put everywhere, and from our point of view, how can also the social development and the co-creation of this help this transition to a tomorrow living that we all hope is green. You always have the possibility to ask questions after the talk directly to the speaker. And afterwards, if you want, you can also present a project or something that you care about on the topic Tomorrow Living with all of us here on stage as a 2-minute impulse talk if you have prepared already something, or if you have now the time to think about it, if you want to use that slot. And then afterwards we can enjoy the nice summer evening outside with some more Wiener Dirndl Francesco's bar. And see the Moogly and the food trucks. Yeah, there's also food trucks if you're hungry. And for the IBA, I wanted to add that you can always join a free tour, either guided or just come in anytime and have a look at all the exhibition rooms until end of October, so quite some more time. Before we start, I want to present just alchemia-nova for a moment. We are a research institute in the 14th district in Vienna. It was founded 2000 already by Hans-Werner Machwitz. He was an activist and environmental activist of the early times, and was very passionate about the phytochemistry. Unfortunately, he died early in 2010, and that was the time when Johannes Kister, here in our middle, please raise your hand, took over alchemia-nova and continued with the vision of alchemia-nova, and really was started the commitment to circular economy with nature-based solutions early on, and we have now a long experience of projects and technologies with nature-based solutions and circular economy. So here you can see the timeline that we grew a lot from 2014. We were 5 employees, and now we are over 30 employees and have an office in Vienna and in Greece. And we're happy that the time is really well for circular economy, and that it's not something that you're smiled upon, but that it really has an uptake at the moment. Good, that was about us and alchemia-nova, and now we want to find out a little bit about you in the room. And meeting the motto or the name of the event with Stand Up, I would like you to stand up if you agree with the question, if the answer is yes. And this is preparing us for the first talk from Jürgen Preis about heat islands, urban heat islands. So did the heat this summer bother you? Did you have a problem with it? Yeah, me too.
I should have asked this question last year.
Yeah, everyone would have gotten up. I also.
Maybe if you ask if the cold weather here in the winter.
Okay. South America. Yeah. Today we talk about heat islands. Next time. Yeah.
There are some of us that live outside of Vienna and we're just on the outskirts.
Yeah. Yeah, I also moved from last summer. I was really miserable in my apartment, and not just because of this I moved, but I moved, and this year was much nicer for the change. And fitting the motto of the evening, are you optimistic about tomorrow living, whatever that might mean? Very nice. Yeah, if we can be optimistic or not, depending on the research and the work of Jürgen Peiss, we will find out now. By Jürgen Peiss, can I ask you to come here with distance until I'm done with my explanation? Jürgen Peiss is the officer in charge of the section Spatial Development of the City of Vienna Environmental Department. I tried to remember this, but
Very correct.
it's too difficult. So he works for the City of Vienna, and he's an expert in urban heat islands and in greening buildings. And we're very looking forward to your talk on urban heat island adaptation and mitigation. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Helena, from alchemia for this invitation. It's great to be here, and I think it's great to have the IBA in Vienna and to speak about a topic. I don't know if you have heard about urban heat islands. It's about our atmosphere, about our surrounding, about something which tackles us more and more since the last years. We had heat waves and so on. So we know a lot about climate change problem, but also something called house-made, so what we add to the problem, to the global problem. It's the so-called urban heat island effect. So I just want to give you some keywords to warm you up for the discussion later on. Yes, I'm working on the topic actually since about 10 years. So we started with an EU project. We worked out this so-called urban heat island strategy plan with European project partners from Barcelona up to Warsaw, Zurich, and so on. Yes, that's not the right place.
Thing I just remembered. Sorry.
So, and I'm pleased to tell you something about what is the City of Vienna doing, the why, and how can we adapt and mitigate these so-called urban heat islands. What you see on the first picture here, it's a thermal camera, a thermal photograph. I don't know if you have seen such photograph once before. It just gives you an information about how long wave radiation gets radiated from the building or from the surface, and all what is red is hot, or white is very hot on this picture. All what is blue is cold, and you might have an imagination how urban structure affects how much energy gets emitted from the surface and how is the temperature of the surface. Climate change and urban heat islands, it's something which overlaps. It's an overlapping effect. Altogether, we have caused by climate change and urban heat islands in Vienna a change of the number of heat days inside the city. It's very interesting if you call your grandmothers, or if you think about back to the 1950s, 1960s. You will find some columns there. There is no column at all. So we have had days 30 years ago. There was no day with a temperature exceeding 30 degrees. We can't imagine this anymore nowadays, because in the last years we had days with 42, 40, 38. 38 days with more than 30 degrees minimum temperature. The column from this year is missing. We will be about, I don't know if you can see a cursor, no, you can't see it. We are out there. So, and that's the trend curve here. So we are actually a little bit over the trend, but we're getting used to these heat waves, to years where we have 40 days with more than 30 degrees. Why do we have this in Vienna? Almost because of the surface of the physics of the city. This is again a thermal photograph taken from an aircraft. You can see all what is yellow or red. These are very hot surfaces. All what is blue and green, these are cold surfaces. And everywhere inside the Vienna, you can, it's calculated, you can find out that the difference between inner city temperatures, the mean difference during daytime in summer makes about 3 degrees and during nighttime about 5 degrees. So this effect is more severe during night times. Why? Because there is a lot of thermal mass, a lot of dense materials, concrete, brick and so on. Buildings, these materials absorb the sun energy during day, stores it and release it during the night time. Very crucial is in this context the climate change. So there are modellings, what you can see here, modellings from the ZAMG, that's the Meteorology Agency of Vienna. They have done this model to find out how will the number of summer days or heat days be changing in a time of 100 years. So you can see the picture left above. That shows how many summer days do we have in this period, and how many summer days will we have in 2071 to 2100. And that's a big problem because if we think about, and we have to consider this, if we are planning a building or a city part anywhere on any place, maybe here, nowadays at this moment we should consider and think about what happens when the building stands there at that time. And then I have a graph on the right top. It's an investigation about energy supply for heating and cooling during cool and hotter years from AIT. The positive aspect is that the cooling demand the heating demand in winter times will sink, so we will have lower heating demand, but the cooling demand will increase dramatically. There are these causes and ways to offset the urban heat islands. The causes are listed here, and the causes themselves include the ways how to do something against. So what are the causes? Sealing, of course. We have a lot of sealing in the city. All the sealed pavements, streets, sideways, inside the buildings. There's a lot of sealing. Where we have sealing, the water runs off, and we don't have the cooling capacity of water on this area. And sealing areas usually are dense materials. They absorb sun energy, heat up, and store the energy. What we can do against it, of course, desealing. Dark surfaces. Sure, the darker the surfaces, the more they absorb the sunlight. High density materials, I have told already, they provide an immense heat storage. Lack of vegetation, where we have no vegetation, we have no evapotranspiration process. 1 square meter of a green area can evaporate up to 10 liter per square meter a day on hot days. So if we miss this, there is no transpiration, evaporation, and with that we lose the cooling effect. Urban density, there comes the gray aspect of urban heat, which drives the urban heat islands. If you have very dense urban areas, you have less ventilation. Ventilation is very important for the city. In Vienna we know, and we are happy because we have the Danube area, and we have generally west winds. They help us quite good to cool down city parts, but there are also sensitive parts where the Danube mainstream doesn't reach inner city parts. There it's very important to care about when developing city areas or doing plannings. And the last point is waste heat, so that's anthropogeneous heat, all the heat which comes from engines, from cars, from air conditioning systems and so on. This is also very important in some inner city courtyards, very small ones, where you have ventilations going outside. You can reach temperatures up to 70 degrees already, taking measures with that amount. So the question is, how do we want to live tomorrow? Is a question which where we have to think about today. Shall it be like DC Tower on the left side, or shall it like Biotop City? I think for us now the answer is quite clear. We see the green and automatically we think, and we know this is something which helps us to increase the comfort in this area. Everybody likes to have green in the surrounding. Vegetation plants are very important for well-being and of course to regulate the climate situation. What you have on the left side, the DC Tower, is a missing of all what I told just before, and the result is that you have very hot surfaces. You have no cooling effect of any water there. There is no water. Every water goes down to the sewage system. You have shading, yes, but the prior issue why to put this shading there was not the shading effect. It was to protect this area from extreme wind speeds coming down from this black building. The PET, and I will speak about it a bit later, and what are the driving factors of the PET. This is the physiological equivalent temperature. We have to think about that when we are doing city planning and when we are putting measurements in the city. It's that what we feel, what everybody or a single person individually thinks how he feels. Today we found out some people did suffer from heat in this year, some did not, so it's different. It depends on age, on condition of persons, clothing, behavior and so on. And the factors why we feel temperature are shown here in a sort of very picture way. So first it's the sunlight. If we go outside and the sun is shining, we feel the sun sometimes. So the direct radiation from sun makes a big part of this temperature. The next aspect is water. If there is a lot of water in the air and it's hot, then we feel it quite hotter. So the energy of water is very important. You see that 2,257 kilojoules per liter. That's the energy which water needs when changing from the fluid to the aerial condition. So that's the transpiration energy. Wind is very important. Everybody knows when going with the bicycle in summer it's hot. It's quite comfortable. You have some wind. Then you have a lecture or something, a meeting, and you get into a building. Suddenly there is no wind, and you start sweating tremendously. Everybody automatically starts to wave something to produce a bit of some wind. Surface albedo, black and white. The higher the albedo, the better, the more reflectance. But it can be also complicated because where does the energy go to? If it's the neighbor building, it might be a problem. Green is perfect because there you have a really good way to get off from the energy which you have in the surrounding by the latent heat stream, by the evapotranspiration. Yes, and that's again also on the right side you see the anthropogeneous heat, wasted heat, just pumped outside. This also can be problematic to small areas. So that's the so-called climber Michael. He is influenced by a lot of radiation and air temperature and wind and so on. So it's just a definition about what is the physiological equivalent temperature. Very important to think about it when you're doing plannings. If you're a landscape architect or just an architect, it doesn't demand. It's very interesting when you go through a city part, if you make experiences like we are doing sometimes. So this was just a walk to find out how is the air temperature depending on the surrounding situation. You know, this area, it's a very young aerial photograph. We started our walk at the underground station. This was interesting on a specific day. There was a range of air temperature, a range of, I would say, 3-4 degrees, depended on the surrounding structure. So this is quite a lot, 3 degrees air temperature difference just within this part of the city. And you can put it in correlation to all these aspects I told just before. How is the green supply, other green surfaces, water? Obviously and possibly the first two blue pots are positively influenced by the Aspern Seestadt, by the lake there. If you walk around with a thermal camera, you get a lot of, we call it AHA, so this Eureka experience. You find out how surfaces behave and where there are really hot spots in the city. Very often pedestrian sidewalk lines on the line of the buildings. These are very problematic areas, so that's also the reason why greening facets is a very important topic to counteract this problem. What you have there is very often or sometimes reflection from the facades, and this is maybe not the biggest problem. The bigger problem is that it reflects onto the surface, and depending on if there's asphalt, concrete or whatever, this material absorbs, and that's the very small part where it gets very hot, surface temperatures up to 60 degrees, but that's the space where the children are very close to the surface, or the dogs, little dogs, they are walking there and might have real big problems with these temperatures. The Urban Heat Island Strategy Plan is also available in English. I have some exemplars with me. I will put them out there. It contains 37 measures about generally told blue, green and grey infrastructures. I don't go into detail with all the possible measures you have to reduce heat in a city. Of course, ventilation, linking of green space is very important if you are planning on a bigger scale. And it goes down to, of course, all green infrastructure, very important, greening and cooling of buildings. That's a very exciting topic because it's a bit challenging. It's not like just planting a tree there. You have to consider a lot of criteria, how and what types of green to fit onto what types of buildings, walls, roofs and so on. And very important is the description in the Urban Heat Island Strategy Plan about the other positive effects. So it's important to think holistic and not only think about the cooling aspect, but also other meanings. What does the measure provide for biodiversity, rainwater management? How is the economical aspect, and very important, what's the social aspect? If I make a white city, I have maybe a good effect. I can reflect the sunlight, but a white city is not really interesting for people. I mean, in America, they are painting streets white. Might be good to make a higher albedo on streets, but it could be uncomfortable to stay there. And especially white roofs are really senseless because then it's only monofunctional and you don't have possibilities to use roofs for recreational issues or for rainwater issues. Just adding measures to the city is good, but it's not enough. It's very important to find out what measure is really effective, and there are plenty of really good planning tools that help to find out how is the cost effectiveness, how is the cost benefit ratio. So you have costs. This is a project in the 11th district, a street, Aspang Street, which was a very hot street. The problem there was it's really expensive to plant trees there because there's a lot of infrastructure below. And the question was, what chances do we have with all the other measures we know? So greening facades, de-sealing, changing the albedo, and this microclimate simulation model, this tool, helped us very much to find out how alternative possibilities can help to improve the situation in the public space. And you see here a difference of 3 degrees at 10 o'clock p.m., so that's already night time, because of green facades. Just the green facades make quite immense reduction of temperature in the surroundings. So that's the green colored space on the side of the building. The assumption was taken that 60% of the facades get a soil-related greening with climbers. Information work is very important. We are working together with other departments. It's very important to provide good information work, to work together with external experts like Innovation Labor, Grünstattgrau. Vera Enzi will speak about it later. One of very important information work is our recent guideline about greening facades. You can read about the meaning of green facades in general, about efforts and costs, about frequently asked questions, very important, but they are botanical basics, technical basics, the systematics of facade greening, and a lot of best practice examples shown in there. Vera, I don't know, greening facades, the challenge or the question about what types of greening buildings, soil-related, drought-related, or living voids, that's not so easy. So it's very important to include experts when doing a planning. So don't tell an architect just do any greening there; he can fail. It's a bit a complex thing, but it's a very exciting learning process. What types of greening, what systems work well, and what systems are really appropriate on what types and what situations of buildings. I think I will step over about that slide because for already 15 minutes at least. Requirements when you are planning green facades, these points, maintenance, for instance, who is caring for the green in the city? If you have a social housing situation, is this something what the building, what the owners can do, or who is doing this? So how is the appearance and what possibilities are there? So this might be a very interesting discussion maybe later on. Laws and fundings are very important to initiate the processes, obligations. We have got an amendment, this was 2018 actually, in the Vienna Building Regulation, which makes it possible to set obligations for greening of roofs and facades. That's very important. And in land use and zoning plans, you will find in future for new buildings that within a specific building height between 7.5 meters and 26 meters, fronts of the buildings have to be greened to at least 20%. We can also discuss about is 20%, is this a bit low, could it be more? So I think this will also be very interesting, exciting process of learning and experience we still need. How much can we really claim? That's just an example also to speak about blue infrastructure. We have still to learn quite a lot in Vienna about blue infrastructure, rainwater management. There are not many steering possibilities with taxes, so we don't have taxes. If you want to get rid of your water, flush it down to the sewage system, it's free, it doesn't cost anything, and it's a big problem. And I think rainwater management also needs a heuristic, a complete approach, beginning on the top of the roof, going down to the surface areas. And this example is, I would say, it's a bit a lighthouse project. It's a small park called Johann Nepomuk Vogelplatz. There was quite interesting planning being done with the aim to collect the water. We have heard about sponge cities, so in the underground there are gravel materials, storage bodies where the water gets, I don't know a word now for it, gets collected, and the important point of that is that the water is available for the trees in the surrounding. So the trees get water over quite a long time, and you don't need an automatic irrigation or something like that. Funding sources and information work. A lot of things are happening in the moment. We have promotions for private owners of buildings, for roof greening projects, for facade greening, and inner courtyard greening projects in this mentioned amount here. So you can get up to 20,200 for green roofs, 5,200 euro for green facades. On the street side, cities, the districts get quite a lot of funding possibilities. There's the Kuhle Bezirk fund with 5.6 million euro, and there are also another 8 million for planting trees. It's very important because on the local area, districts very often have problems to finance green infrastructure, but they are responsible for it at the end. Subsidized housing gets funds for ecological measures. Information work is very important. Eco-Business Wien is doing information work for businesses with an amount of 480 euro or more. Then we have Umweltberatung Wien, that's an eco-counseling NPO. Umweltberatung makes a lot of awareness-raising activities. They have a telephone hotline. Citizens can call them up, and if they have no idea, they get really good help. So what are the next steps to implement some green infrastructure? How can I do it? How can I get them some funding for it, and so on? Yes, Innovation Labor Grünstattgrau, Vera will speak about it later. They provide really professional support. They have a great network worldwide. And 150 green buildings, that's a political program with the goal to green up 150 buildings within 2 years or till next years. We are asked to set up a program and to push this forward to show that we have done this. So we need milestones. It's very important, I would say. So I'm finished with my presentation. Some slides again. Although this summer wasn't that hot, but the next heat waves in the next years will come, and maybe my message is just keep cooling in any way and care for biodiversity. Don't forget this. Thank you for your attention. I hope it was interesting for you, and I'm looking forward to the discussion later.
technology, some trees explode. But is there any calculation if you green like 20% of the facades of houses in Vienna, how much CO2 you would store?
I also have seen projects with trees on the facade. It would be another possibility. The 20%, this was a discussion of members from planning department, from also building protection and so on. It's a sort of compromise, I would say, and also experience about if you take typical types of buildings and you have that's 20% from brutto, so from the whole facade, including the windows. And you must imagine it depends on how is the size of windows, what is left, how much of the usually 30 or 40% of the buildings or of the facade is just windows or spaces you can't need. In inner city parts you have the problem that you have if you think on the ground floor, the first you have usually shopping windows there, so there's no way to green them at all. So I would say this is a sort of compromise, and it can be changed. So it will be also very important to do a monitoring about it. When first buildings get greened, also the question, what are 20% at the end? So, I mean, there are standards in development, one standard, which gives an idea what does 1 square meter greened area mean. And it's not easy because you have a rope or a system and you have the plants or the plant, depending on. And it's very hard to define what's the space, what's the just the leaf area index, for instance, on a specific. So facade, we will see. I think 20% is not so bad.
But the question is more just say ameliorating the effects of climate change. Can city greening contribute to prevent climate change or to counteract a little bit of?
Then we must think about, or the question was if building greening can contribute to reduce climate change, so that's a mitigation question. Then it's very exciting, this question, because then it's going about the question, can we reduce the cooling energy demand of the building by providing green infrastructure outside, shading systems, so a passive cooling system can possibly afford nearly that what we need in summer days, or could substitute an air conditioning system. But this still needs a lot of investigation work. So we don't know how to calculate this. But this would be a very interesting, exciting effect, of course. I don't know if this was an answer. A good answer. If this answer was enough, I'm not sure.
I've got a question because you have the different interests of people. I mean, the facades are great for the city. The facades are great for, maybe green facades are great for the people living in the houses. But the people who are owning the houses, which unfortunately are not, they don't have that. Yeah, for them it's kind of okay, we can do the facade, but then what does it bring for me? So how do you motivate these people to invest into green facades?
Yes, the question was different. I have to repeat it because for the film. The different interests. So the owners, they don't see their own facade. Maybe depends on the solution. If it's a more three-dimensional greening, it might be interesting. If it's more a two-dimensional situation, you don't see it at all. You might have a positive aspect because it's 1, 2 or 3 degrees colder inside your flat, but then it's very good that the dwellers know about it and really believe, and they need good examples that this really works, because some people are skeptic. They think this little green outside it doesn't really make that what I need. So the really cooling effect, we need good examples to show this. Yes, we're on the interface between the private building, the building owners. To reach them, that's a big challenge. to get the data from private owners nowadays is nearly impossible. So we can just make public information work, try to reach them, make projects on a local area, invite them to speak about it. They are very important because they have to implement the greening. And then there is the public space. So in some cases, greening solutions need the acceptance also from the owners of the city. So the street planning department, for instance. So it needs ein Übereinkommen. Yeah, thanks. Sure, and we know about it. So greening buildings facets on the public side, that's a big challenge. In new cities, it's easy, of course, but existing streets where there are also criteria which you have to consider. Pavements must be at least 2 meters, or I would say 2.40 meters you need to implement a soil-related greening system. In many areas you don't have this space there at all, so then you have to speak and discuss with the districts about possibilities to change the whole profile of the streets, reduce the street space, take away parking space. This is actually really discussed in some areas, but it's not easy to explain then again the dwellers or the people living there who have a car in front of the building that you want to change the car with a greening system or with a tree or what else. That's a challenge, yes.
How does it work with the front of the facades? Like if you want to plant on the street side, you need more space for the soil, for the plants, but the regulation is against that at the moment. So how do you do that?
You must get the space, definitely. If you don't have the space, it's not possible, but you can, if there's no space on the ground, of course there are ways to implement facet-related greening systems, so-called living walls. They are independent, so you can also arrange it on the building itself. The costs for the construction is a bit higher, of course, because you need automatic irrigation, you need all the system with substrates and so on. You have to fix it on the facade, so that's generally more expensive. But in some cases, maintenance costs can be lower than if you have a soil-related climbing with climbers and creepers, a soil-related solution. That's a question where you have to think, or should think holistic again. If you make calculations and try to find out how can you cool the building itself, then you can compensate the air conditioning system. One example was the MA31 in Grabenstraße in the 6th district. That's Vienna Water. This building has been renovated and they have installed a greening 1,000 square meters with containers on the facade, so the containers automatic irrigation, 7 types of climber species. You can see it there on a picture. It's that one here. And before there was the renovation work, the planning for renovating the building, there was the discussion: should they implement an air conditioning system, or should they try to cool down the building with shading, plantings, and of course also isolation and new windows. That's also very important. And the decision was that they make a passive system which doesn't need any energy. And that's, I think, a big result, because should be monitored, and I don't know if how much energy can be saved. I just know that the inside temperature could be reduced down to 27 degrees, and they had close to 40 degrees before inside this office area. So I think this is a rather good example.
Is the legislation changed from because you need kind of like 40-45 centimeters, I guess, off the pathway, right?
Clemens, I think we talk about this afterwards when you
Sure,
still
I was there.
there. I understand that it's like a very interesting topic for someone who like owns a house or really has to implement it. So I also had a few more questions in mind, but maybe we can discuss this afterwards. How this very ambitious, I need to stand here. This very ambitious goal of the 20% greening will really be implemented, and what this will mean in all his waves. But we can definitely looking forward to a tomorrow city that is greener. So for this very interesting window that opens up now with this regulation coming up, there's also the intro for the next talk about understanding the market of green infrastructure, because like for us as an institute who also develops green facade systems, it's very interesting how the market will grow and what this will mean. So I'm welcoming Vera Enzi from Grünstattgrau. She's the Vice President of the European Federation of Green Roofs and Walls, as well as the CEO of the Innovation Laboratory of Greening Cities Austria, Grünstattgrau. We are also, with alchemia-nova, we are like a proud member of the network Grünstattgrau, and you can always call them and ask for their support and help, what we've used before. And yeah, we're very happy to hear now this part of the green city of tomorrow and tomorrow living, of what the market is and what is out there at the moment. So thank you, Vera, and the stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the very nice introduction. I'm happy to be up here tonight. I think Jürgen already demonstrated very well how complicated it can be. Sorry, Jürgen. Actually, this is what we are doing daily at our innovation laboratory Grünstattgrau. We got initiated by the Austrian Climate Ministry approximately 4 years ago in a program in Austria called City of Tomorrow. And since the last 3 years, we have been trying to change things, turn the world upside down in order to really tackle all these different challenges that can come up for all kinds of stakeholders. So city administratives, some things are not easy to solve. Citizens or users of the solutions, well, also there is a lot of communication needed. Some people are, for example, a little bit afraid of insects or nature in the urban environment. Okay, we also have to deal with that. On the other hand, of course, there is research. Jürgen just said a few times, well, I don't have the answer. There are a lot of answers out there, actually. It's also one of our jobs to collect these answers and try to make them available for public in order for many people to take this up and try to work on with it. And actually, there is already a very big, not only European, but worldwide movement for greening buildings. And on the other hand, there is industry. Because a lot of people, to my understanding, somehow they think that green roofs and green walls are like something which, I don't know, crossed our minds like yesterday. That's not true. So we're looking back to a history of 40, 50 years of industrial green roofing. And we have projects in Europe that are 100, 200, 300 years old. You can see a lot of biodiversity aspects, which just Jürgen came up with. It also, I think, is one of the most important topics to discuss, also in terms of market. So we have to deliver solutions that are, on the one hand, reflecting the topic of climate change, adaptation, mitigation, and protection. I'm also very happy that the CO2 binding question, for example, came earlier. And nature-based solutions on buildings have to offer a lot of benefits in that situation. They can ease a lot of things. Heat stress we have heard about today already. Also the question of energy use or energy supply, the combat against air conditioning units. But on the end, and this is something I have heard today in the afternoon again, also a very important issue, which is public health. So all of us are somehow connected to the urban nature because this is something which is in our genes, we need it, and it helps us to release stress, to stay more healthy. And if I be very, I may have the chance to be very actual in terms of the corona crisis development, especially green space that is accessible to a lot of people. Also, I think we are going to talk about discrimination later on. So green roofs and green walls should not be a topic for people who can afford it, but should be a topic and a supply for everybody in a city, which is green infrastructure as a whole topic. So there is a lot of different aspects on that essence. Yeah, I'm happy to discuss with you a lot of these questions later. I'm also very happy to say that I have one of my colleagues here who is a spatial planner, Raphael. He's sitting in the back. My personal background is landscape planning and landscape architecture, and we are also proud part of this exhibition here, and you will find our demonstrator for green roofs and green facades outside. You can visit it. I think it's quite fun also to look at the biodiverse green roof, for example, or some kind of out-of-the-box technology we can offer, so you can visit it later on. What I would like to do in the next, hopefully I'm going to be quick, few minutes, is try to bring your mind on markets. Because still we can talk a lot about nature, we can talk a lot about sustainable development, but if these kind of green solutions are not able to compete with renewable energies, renewable mobility, to a certain extent, digitalization, and a lot of other, I would say, trendy, also climate change related topics, we're going to lose the fight. Not only in space, because we sometimes want to use the same space. Just think about parking areas and trees. The same goes for solar panels and green roofs. So we have to act quick now. And the reason why I tried to push this topic forward today was because the green branch as a whole is existing as a market for decades already. I think all of you know a landscape planner, or you may have encountered a horticulturist or a landscape contractor or a gardener. So we are there for many decades already, and yeah, not a lot of people notice that it's a market, it's an industry as well. So there was a lot of good questions on, but what's the volume? Is this a bankable investment for the rest of the world? So what we're trying to do also as Innovation Laboratory, try to come up with numbers and really see what's there, and try to make some very specific lineups where we should move to, and where we are currently missing political support, where we're currently missing public support, where we're currently missing private support, and try to come up with some suggestions on how we can change and drive forward also the topic of the market. Okay, so just a few words to the background. So we started approximately 1.5 years ago to set up a survey method, a market survey method, for all the different value chains behind nature-based solutions on buildings on the Austrian model. And to be short, we did the first round of the surveys, and we managed to reach over 250 companies in Austria, who gave us a lot of interesting feedback. Thank you. And the second part of the survey was dedicated towards cities. And I also think maybe Jürgen will be interested about it. So we were also asking the 85 biggest cities in Austria on how their development on climate change adaptation and mitigation was, if they recognized green roofs and green walls as a kind of measure they could use. And so this is basically the feedback of the research I'm trying to bring in here. And when we looked at the all the details and the great numbers we just discovered here, great. Now we do a next try. We came up with the conclusion that especially Corona time is putting also the market sector in whole Austria at the moment in front of a lot of big challenges, and there will be investment from certain sources for sure. And this investment could also go into the urban green. And what I'm here presenting is really a series of very first results of that brand new survey, which we're going to publish in a big echo with the end of this year. And already we are working on transferring the survey to another 14 European Union countries in order to come up with viable numbers for the market that we can then give to political decision makers of another level, not national but European and maybe also worldwide. Okay? So, understanding the market. How is the current size? What's the value chain? So here, who is involved? Just taking a look at this very specific sector of green buildings in Austria. So what we already know is that in green roofs we are quite good. We build around 1 million square meters every year in green roofs. But on the other hand, 1 million square meters, what is that? Approximately 100 soccer fields. And in fact, this is only every 10th flat roof that's being built new every year in Austria. So we're only greening 1 out of 10 flat roofs that is being built. Okay, we could develop, right? In terms of walls, this is a relatively young market, and it's also very difficult to get numbers on, let's say, climbing plants like ivy or wild vine, Patenotsis tricuspidata. So we were more focusing on the technical engineered facade greenings, where it was easier to get some numbers, but we don't make more than 40,000 square meters per year at the moment. Still, across all the different fields, there is a turnover and growth, which we can see if we look back the last 5 years. So that's actually, to be honest, quite a good sign, and the growth rate is approximately around 9 to 10%. In terms of indoor walls, it's even better. If you would have listened to our colleague from the Public Health Center of Vienna today in the afternoon, she was explaining in detail why also greenery in the inside, and I don't see a single plant here, that's really bothering me, have to do something, has a really direct impact on our health, well-being, on our productivity, on our personal motivation. So let's do a quick test. Who has 1 to 5 plants at home? Who has more than 5? Who has more than 20? Who has more than 50? Who has more than inside? Should have specified the question. So you see, and this is one of the good things also, if we're talking about the market, this is a market where everybody has an opinion about it, and where everybody feels a little bit connected, and you have a knowledge. What's the plant you have at home? First row. Can you say what it is? What's your favorite plant at home?
Basilikum.
Basilikum. Kiwi. Pfannkuchen.
Monstera.
Okay, to find out what it is. Monstera, great plant, very monstrous. So so plants are a good topic in general. But on the other hand, especially for investors and also for companies, this is a very risky market. It's something that lives. Selling flat screens is easier, you know. So it's something you have to care about, also in maintenance. And this is also why I think the next talk is going to be very motivating for us all, because I also believe that green infrastructure, nature-based solutions in a city are a co-creative action. So the point is also, if we take a look at what these solutions can deliver in terms of benefit, all of us have a share of that. There is a certain aspect which concerns private people, there is a certain aspect that helps the city, for example, to save insurance costs. There is a certain aspect which is also good for industry, saves, for example, energy costs, and so on and so on. So there is a lot of different arguments, and everybody of us is connected and benefits from green and nature, especially when it's close to buildings. So the value chain is very diverse. So we have a lot of companies in Austria who are doing their daily job, their work, and they're dedicating their workforces to the topic. So you can see that it starts somewhere with engineering services, landscape architects, project development. It goes then somewhere to production of ground materials, components, and already systems. And then we end up somewhere in the system integration, gardeners, landscapers, maintenance, companies, some of them specified, some not. So this is a huge ecosystem. So you can also see some numbers of companies over there. And a good share of them have their speciality really on green on buildings, which is a really good sign, because it also shows it's a specialized market that some companies can also live from only, which is really a good sign. And what's also one of the sides of the survey is that we have a continuous growth of new joining SMEs. So also companies who jump into the field because they see a future market here. And we also have a very strong regional focus, which also means regional work forces or jobs in terms of materials components, especially. So we are already looking at CO2, for example, in materials and transportation. So there are lots of interesting data actually behind this very, let's say, simple table. So understanding the public client, now this goes down to you, Jürgen. How cities and towns, stakeholders are dealing with the topic. What do we know about them, in Austria at least? So what's a clear result we can say from having asked 75 out of 86 cities in Austria that were over 10,000 inhabitants. Challenge accepted. They already know what's coming in terms of climate change, in terms of changing environmental conditions, in terms of resilience, and there is a significance of green infrastructure and nature-based solutions being realized already as a mitigation and adaptation measure. And the survey also showed there is a large diversity of strategies already in place. So, 2 out of 3 cities are actually working on their own implementation plans and strategies at the moment. There is basically none of the cities answered that this was not a topic and they were actually not dealing with it right now. So that also shows the alarming reception of the whole situation. But what was also mentioned a lot of times was that there was a really deep need for best practice sharing, exchanging with others, really breaking out from the silos that you are in. If you're just seeing your department, maybe the next department, the third department, but also getting in really active contact with other cities who have the same problem. And I think the City of Vienna has to share a lot of experience in that sense, because you have made great steps and you have taken everything really serious, which I think is a really good thing, and it gets a lot of international attention also in terms of roofs and walls, especially to the City of Vienna, which is something I have to say really compliment. You did a really very, very basic and good job. And something which is actually good, for example, for the market is the field on the right side down. So every 5th of these cities we asked was already having an active green roof policy. So green roofs being mandatory to be installed in certain qualities, which is a good sign. On the other hand, the stakeholder groups. So we have some groups which are at the moment not that well informed, I really have to say. So landscape architects are good, my own branch, they at least know what a green roof is. Well, the public is better informed than some of the city planning administrations, which is also an interesting sign. Where we clearly lack deep understanding and content is, for example, already at the architect side and the politics, and where we have a really rapid cut in knowledge about technology, content, importance, benefits, is the building contractors and the construction market or industry as such. So that's quite a clear picture, so we know what we have to work on. If you know a construction company, or if you know a real motivated real estate developer, please send him to us. We're going to set his head to the right green direction, as I hope. So these are the main target groups we have to focus on now, in case we want to make a critical change in the current market. Okay?
But sorry, question, this is Austria, not Vienna.
This is Austria, yes, whole of Austria. Yeah. You are doing much better than what is there. Yeah. But that's the mix-up with the rest of Austria. No, actually, it was really interesting to see what all these cities answered, and we had a lot of surprises, because we are active all over Austria. We have a lot of contacts. Our network is 380 partners strong, so we really do quite a broad job in every single county of Austria. But we still encountered surprises of especially also really small-scale administrative units like communes that had already very strong measures in place nobody was talking about, because it was concerning basically much smaller group of people, and it did not make it to the news. So quite interesting to see, actually. So now is the big question, where do we go from now on? So where are the future perspectives? What should we do? What do we have to do? So what we also know that there is a lot of dynamic development in the market sector. We have at the moment approximately 550 SMEs, so small to medium-sized enterprises in Austria who are working on the field with 1,200 full-time employees. We make a turnover of approximately 90 million euros every year. And 40% of the companies we asked in the survey, which was quite a lot, only entered this market after 2010, which is also quite an interesting thing. And the yearly turnover grows at the moment without any kind of other kind of help, and I'm going to talk about the other kind of help now, which we would need. It's approximately 9% per year. So what has to change? We could have a lot of nice ideas. So I'm personally convinced that we need measures from different sides. So there have to be top-down approaches, there have to be bottom-up approaches. There is no black and no white. Everything's needed and everything's good. What is needed the most is communication across everything which is being done. It does not matter if a green roof is a mandatory by law or if somebody offers an incentive for going through this useful investment for a lot of people, actually. So we could think that, let's say by 2030, every second newly built flat roof is a green roof. If you think back about what I've said, 1 out of 10 currently, that would make a big difference already. Also in terms of course, green jobs, Green Deal and green economy for Austria, especially now in these different difficult times, with economic big questions, I would say, to overcome. On the other hand, urban green space has faced has gotten a lot of attention over the last weeks, because this is green space people can use. If you cannot reach a public park and you have to stay in your own building, of course plants around you get much more important than they actually were before. We could also implement this, let's say, goal until 2030 or 2023 already into refurbishment processes, and not only in new buildings. Welcome around the corner. You're invited to take a seat. And there is actually a lot of different incentives and control measures we could go for. So we could integrate this as a must-have part of the planning process at the moment, which is not the case. We could have a mandatory introduction of a green infrastructure indicator. So an investment or a house has to have a certain percentage of green. We could go towards the energy billing or direct financial incentives, which I think was highlighted today already. And I would also say that we could identify across a lot of countries in Europe a direct goal that is related to the unsealing and deep paving issue we have at the moment. So we're sealing too much surfaces, and in Austria we're really on the top. If you look at the European Union countries around us, and we need not only to stop sealing immediately, start deep paving, we also really have to deep pave what's there already. It's not just setting measures for new buildings and building a lot of new buildings, but we have to focus on refurbishment and continuous unsealing and deep paving of everything we've sealed until now. Goes for parking lots, goes for buildings. Take a look, a lot of possibilities. We have to do that, otherwise Austria is going to fail the next goal in terms of the sealing factor. So there is hopefully also strong political will to lower the sealing rate 2030 from 44 square kilometers, where it is at the moment, to 9 square kilometers per year. So that's going to be a big challenge. Integrated rainwater management, we've heard about that already. So tax incentives could help. And I also thought, what about a positive idea? Could we have a deep paving award in Austria for projects and cities and privates also? So everybody who deep paves can be a potential award winner. because he did or she did right? Would that make sense? Would you be depaving if there was an award? Would you not be sure if you had the power to depave? Okay. Of course, an award has to come with an advice, what's allowed and what's not. Anyway, maybe also measures like that could help. And I won't go into that detail, but there is also current situations, especially in buildings, and not on the side of the construction, but on the side of the maintenance and operation of buildings. So there are certain laws of tenancy and the Condominium Act that could also, where greenery could be integrated, and then it's like kind of a standard process in maintaining our buildings. Because at the moment greenery is something which comes on top of maintenance a building has to have anyway, but it could be a mainstream. Why not? Yeah. Last look at what the bigger scope brings. Actually, we looked at the market sizes in Europe in 2015 already once on a very rough side. So you can see very different markets in green roofs here in Europe. And yeah, that's what we're currently doing. So in case you would be happy to discuss this issue with me further, if you're a company, if you're a city, if you are just a citizen who thinks on how he or she could contribute to the topic, you are the best one because you are the user. So I should have not said just, I should have said on top. If you are a citizen, you are super welcome. So this is the next chance to discuss the topic. It's going to be on the 24th and 25th of September. It's called, the conference is called Unique. It's fully online, it's free, and we're going to have a big session there, and of course you are warmly welcomed in case you are interested. And I hope to see you later on at Mugli, because you have to see it. It's a crazy thing. Thanks. I know that that was a dry and tough topic. I know people don't want to talk markets. Sorry, yes.
So you mentioned that you're competing with solar panels. How do you convince people to go for green roofs rather than solar panels?
Yeah, the question is not either or. The question is that we have to convince people to go for both of the solutions on the same square meter. Technologically, that issue is solved. So we have extensive green roofs with solar panels, more for industrial buildings where the roof is not being used, and we have the combination of intensive green roofs that have more or less like higher pergolas, where we have semi-transparent photovoltaic over it. So energy is being produced. Under it there is the green roof with its full range of benefits, and in the intensive version the pergola also serves, of course, for all of us as a shading element and a usable element on the intensive roof garden, for example. So there are combinations that are out on the market approximately for 10 years. So it's not a technological question. At the moment I think it's a question of how well known these solutions are, and I think that many, especially architects, also building contractors, investors, housing developers, just don't have the knowledge about it because they, not well informed, and still there is a lot of, I don't know, to my understanding, quite a doubt. Well, a green roof is everything. It's not waterproof, insects are on it, and I can tell you a big range of negative comments, although green roofs are in Austria standardized technology by the Austrian Standard Institute since more than 10 years. So it's not like it's a technology from, the future days. It has made its homework already. Just the same goes for green facades. The standard will be out this year. It's going to be worldwide the first one. So actually, in terms of safety of the technology, we are well positioned. So there should not be a lot of questions. Of course, the combination of a green roof and a solar panel costs more than having a black roof with 90 degrees and solar panels. Okay, but you also get a lot more benefits out of the solution. It's a much better quality one, and better quality, most of us will know that, also has a higher investment price in the beginning. Yeah. And we have to overcome this question, I think. Johannes.
Is there also a competition between building integrated photovoltaics on facade and green facades? Is this like a topic at all?
Yeah. To my understanding, the photovoltaic green facade is not yet a patented or a market-ready solution. There are projects which are out there, a lot of pilot projects which show good results, but still, to my understanding, it's not at the point where it can go that quickly mainstream like the solar green roof does. Because it's quite a funny thing. Actually, in Europe, there is a lot of solar green roofs installed, but not in Austria. I'm still trying to find out why is that. So I would say the facade still needs a little bit more of technological development, and also in terms of price competitiveness, I still think that we have to do something on the facade combination. Because still also, being with photovoltaics on the facade, you have less output you can draw from it. And so you have to come up with, of course, a different kind of calculation. That's also, I would say, one of the things. But there will be a lot of solutions also within, let's say, the next 2-3 years. So there is a lot in the pipeline. Everybody's basically thinking about it. And yeah. Jürgen, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, actually, the City of Vienna Energy Department is planning to provide funding for combination in panels and green roofs. So if you get funding for PV panels in general, but if you have it on a green roof, well, you must have it, but you get an extra. So it's planned to provide €350 for 1 kilowatt peak, I think, depending on the size. I think, I'm not sure that it's limited then, but it's quite a lot. I don't know if it can...
I'm not sure if we are allowed to talk about it already.
I don't know if it can help to find the difference of costs, so you have a little...
Exactly.
You have to heat up and up to certain centimeters and so on.
So the point is that the combination of the green roof and the solar panel does not automatically cost more because the green roof is there, but because the substructure, and we need a certain height difference between the two solutions for them to work well. And this height difference we need to reach, at least 20 to 30 centimeters, puts an added need on the substructure. And this is actually the more cost we have in that solution. And the idea, just like Jürgen voiced, basically of the City of Vienna, that's coming with a new solar guideline for the city, there will be also maybe an additional subsidy in order to cover that more cost people would have with choosing this much more beneficiary solution at the moment. Which is, I think, a very good start if you want to start implementing. That's a good development.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vera, and she will be around for more questions.
Absolutely.
Afterwards.
Actually, everything you saw in the pictures in the back was either green roofs or green walls. Just wanted to make sure you know.
And thank you for making all the numbers very interesting. Because of the problems with the presentation earlier, we missed the question for... that's confusing. The question to lead up to Vera's talk, so we can do them now afterwards. Oops. Do you work in the field of greenings? If you do, please stand up. Okay. Yeah. Some are not sure. If they and would you like to live in a house with a green facade? pretty pretty convincing audience here. We're talking to the right crowd. Now I have also interesting questions for you. Leading up to Teresa's talk about the co-creation and the social aspects of nature-based solutions in cities. And how do you want to live in a futuristic building, cooperating with and depending on plants? If you do, please stand up. Yeah. And now, even more provocative, can you imagine cooking with biogas produced from your pee and poo?
Not sure about the plants, but in that case, yeah.
It's not as crazy as it might sound. This is part of our Houseful project, and you can find out more also a little bit in Teresa's talk, but also in the exhibition or asking us afterwards. So now I want to welcome Teresa Heitzelhofer with her talk How to Live in a Houseful Building. She's part of our core team at Alchemia and building the bridges between humans and ecology. That was also her studies, and so she often brings the focus in the discussion, but do people want this? How will they use it? Is that really what we want, not just from an environmental and technology base, but also from a human perspective? So I'm happy that we could have her here talk about the Houseful project. She was also part of writing the proposal for it, and so she knows it very deeply. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also from my side, that we can be part of this IBA exhibition. When we got the positive answer from the European Commission that we can implement this Houseful project, all the European projects, there is a co-funding needed. They're really seldom fully financed. And then we found out about the IBA, and to be honest, we got it wrong. Yeah? So Johannes and me, we went there, we dressed up, we tried to look really professional, and said, let's go there and go for 400,000 euros. So we entered the office, and we were really, so when were you talking about the money? And Kurt Hofstetter, he was offering, as he said, distribution help, communication. And at the beginning, we were a bit disappointed because this was not what we were asking for. But now, as we are here tonight, and as we can see how many nice other projects are in the IBA, we're really happy to be in this consortium and in this IBA project. Yeah, thank you again. So I will present the Houseful project. That's about how to get circularity into existing buildings. We have 4 demo sites, 2 in Austria, 2 in Spain. Actually, there are 3 in Austria. We started with 2, now we go with 3. And we have so many goals in this project, but I will really try to keep it short. Yeah? And on the right part of the picture, you can see whatever is technically feasible with the construction material. So how to get buildings set up, how to get them down again, how to dismantle them, how to recycle materials. Blah, blah, blah. I will not talk so much about this part. We'll talk about the other part on the left side of the picture, and these are all the organic materials that we can recycle with the plants. So it's nature-based solutions. Yeah, it's not just greening, we call it functional greening. Of course, we have heard that greening has so many effects and so many impacts, but greening can even do more than that. And now there's a very complicated picture coming. This is what we try to do, just very short. We have in our wastewater, we have a lot of organic substances in our wastewater. So that's feces, that's urine, that's toilet paper, it's also somehow organic. But in Houseful, we also, in Austria, in the Austrian buildings, we already start with implementations. We also shred our organic kitchen waste. We also put this one in our wastewater, so we have a really enriched wastewater. What we then try to do is we separate the solids and the liquid parts from this wastewater, because then we can treat them efficiently. And all the solid parts, so the organic kitchen waste, the feces, the toilet paper, they go into a biogas system that is made for a household size. So it's a really small one. And we can treat it there, we can get cooking gas out of it, and the residues there's a special composting unit to compost residues from a biogas unit, so it's not getting really full of odors that you might not want to have. Special composting unit, and then everything is turned into fertilizer at the end. And then what we want to do is we want to do direct local food production on site with the organic waste. Once waste, now it's nutrients. All the liquid part is going into vertical constructed wetlands that we have inside the building and outside on the facade roof. You can see both of them tonight. The inside module is in one of those rooms there, and the outside system is on the Mugli that we're going to see afterwards. The purified water is used for irrigation in the garden and also for flushing in the toilet. So this is very short, just the technical aspects in this project. But I am here tonight to talk a bit more about the social aspects. How does it feel to live in a building like this? We can talk everything technical afterwards, because there are some of our technicians here tonight. They can answer your questions much better than I can. So this is just an impression of this indoor wastewater treatment system. Take your own look. It's really around there. This is a picture of one of our Austrian demos. This is in Vienna in the 14th district. This is our office building. And just what we found out in the very beginning of the planning of Hausful is that the available technical solutions are much better applicable for bigger households. So we thought, okay, our building is too small. What happens at the moment is that the employees of alchemia-nova come and bring their organic food waste from home to put it into the biogas system, so we can get the biogas system on full capacity. But if this is not enough, we're going to start asking the neighbors, please, could you donate some of your organic waste so we can get our biogas system running? And then the point that I want to reach is that if we start with nature-based solutions, their social aspects are coming by themselves. So we have to interact with our neighbors, with the people around us. This is the second demo in Styria and Färing. We are happy really to cooperate with them because there are 70 people in the building, so it's going to be much easier to get all the organic nutrients we need for our technologies there. That's also a short message. It's really hard to be fully autonomous, fully autark if you're in a small household. It's better that you cooperate with your neighbors. You have to think your buildings in clusters, in associations. And then the technologies that are available today, maybe that's tomorrow that's different, but today this is the case. Back in the year 2005, I wrote my diploma thesis about participation in the context of sustainable development, and back then, but it's still valid, it came out that participation is a core element of sustainable development, and participation only succeeds if the people are emotionally connected to a place. And we see that this emotional connection is missing in most residential contexts. Single-family buildings or flats that are rented temporarily, and people don't have any connection to their neighbors. This bonding is not necessary. And the question is, how can we establish such a bonding of people to their buildings so they start participate in doing something at their building? You know, if my wastewater is treated some kilometers further, nobody can trace back my wastewater to me. I can enter quite everything into the toilet. If my waste bin is somehow centrally is handled, I can pretty much throw everything in there. Nobody will come back to me and say, hey, listen, this was not meant for the wastewater, or this was not meant for the landfill. So now let's assume we have a multi-party building and we establish a wastewater treatment plant on site. Maybe we establish even a biogas plant on site. We are so sure that these facilities are going to bring the people together. The social context will increase around these facilities. It will occupy the residents. Maybe they will take a look if this wastewater treatment plant, is it really working, or if this is not working? If you really produce food from this treated wastewater, I want to be sure that this wastewater treatment plant is working well. And maybe not everybody will be interested, and maybe not everybody will do something if everything is not working correctly, but maybe some of them will do, and these some of the best ones to start. And it's I propose, that if we use nature-based solutions in multi-party buildings, we gain more social interactions, we gain more participation in decision-making processes concerning the building itself, concerning our lifestyles also. We get more interest and knowledge about nature-based solutions, and we get more awareness about our impacts of our lifestyles. If I put something really bad into the toilet, I can see that afterwards in my wastewater treatment plant. Maybe I don't want to see that, but I will. Okay, there's just another picture. This is the Hausful project team, so there are many people. Sorry, it's Cambium. That's the new demo in Austria. But I guess the Hausful team is the same size.
Less babies.
Less, yes, correct. So, we want the people to discuss their lifestyles. We want the people to think about their lifestyles, discuss them, realign them, change their lifestyles. This is what sustainable development is about. Sustainable development is not a static situation, it's a dynamic situation. And if we want to achieve this sustainability, we think that we need to share much more than we do today. This big sharing has not made it yet into the mainstream. And we think then with this resource-based approach that we have in the Hausful project and the new digital possibilities, we can do that much more easy. Share things, share organic waste. I mean, we think about sharing cars, sharing bicycles, but we could share much more if we want to do so. And then the technologies show that we need new ways of living, and also new mindsets that are open for nature-based solutions. And let me tell you a little story on this one, the openness on nature-based solutions. We had, when we separate I go a bit back. So when we separate the liquid part from the solid part, this is a plastic container shaped like an hourglass. It's transparent, and we have installed it in our office building in the garden, so it's visible. And on the first day, everything was connected for the very first time. We had a visit of 4 journalists from FM4. They wanted to do a podcast with us about our work. So Johannes and me, we were interviewed in the garden, talking about our work. And then for the first time, somebody used the toilet in the building and flushed. And Johannes and me were so excited. Is it working? Is it safe? Is everything correct? And we could watch the poo going in circles, being separated from the liquid, from the urine and the flushing water. And we wanted to share this thrilling moment with those journalists. You should have seen the faces of those 4 young women. It was thrilling, definitely. But what we would like to, the message that we would like to bring out is that if we start thinking about nature-based solutions, our organic waste, our feces, our urine, is not something disgusting. It's something that has value, that we can use again and again and again. This is what we try to do. We try to use it as much efficient as possible and as often as possible. And we have one technical wish for all new buildings besides all greening. We have one technical wish. It's really easy to solve. We want that every new building has separated wastewater streams, grey water, yellow water, black water, so you can address every one of them specifically and get the nutrients back and cycle them as often and as efficient as we can. And I mean, all of this can also be done with a mask and a baby elephant. If we want to have sustainable development, we need more social context, not less. And I think we can do that. Thank you.
Any questions?
Maybe have a drink first and then have the Q&A outside. Yes?
What's the minimum amount of people to get one of these biogas stations running? How many households does one house have? What's the minimum?
Mm-hmm. What's the minimum people of make a small-scale biogas system running well? I refer to my colleague here.
It's for
4 people.
yes.
Why then do we feed our biogas system with our employees' food
That's
waste?
what some other systems say.
Uh-huh.
We prefer to produce more because we have more people, so we want more cooking gas to be generated, but it's
Okay, so depends on the amount of cooking gas you want to have.
So, but a single family building would run well with 4 people living.
yes.
Wow.
If they are there all the year. If they're not there for 3 or 4 months in a year or so, then you might need to restart the fermentation.
Jumpstart it. All right.
No holidays for biogas.
Yeah, or get your neighbors into your building.
There are so structured. You find friends who go visit and say, eat a lot. You give them all the meats and stuff for food.
Yes, so basically my question would be how, so unfortunately I did not see your separator. I think at your office I will come and pick it in case I was allowed to.
Yeah, it's still
I
open.
just wanted to ask how much space in the building do you consume? So for example also for the biogas plant, all in all. I mean I have quite I think good view about the facade and let's say the wind farm.
Mhm.
The rest of the technical equipment, we need a lot of space for that.
I would, no, not a lot. I would say 10 square meters. What do you say, Johannes?
I think the most.
Biogas reactor is about like 2 cubic meters
Okay.
for a small unit. So to spend it. That depends how high you make it.
And where do you have this space?
Usually it works best if you have it in a cellar somewhere closer, wherever you have your water drainage system running. Leaving the
It smells?
It smells when you dry it. We dried it, we took it, and we put it in the oven just to realize the solid content. But it usually doesn't smell.
No, it doesn't smell.
It doesn't smell. We took samples and we put it in the oven to check the solid content. These smell bad. I have to confess.
The nuance is that the system is completely sealed.
No, it's
And the
like
system itself takes care of the odors within the processes internally. So there should be no smell. What he's referring to was some extra tests that we ran. Otherwise, the system itself is completely sealed, and besides the activity within it.
Make sure that participate the extra test. Otherwise it's
no, and the fun thing is, we even have a system like attached to that, which is called the biofiltration system, and it's meant for odor filtration. So in case really odors from the constructed ventilator indoors or so somehow volatilize, we can capture them, all of them, and we can treat them just in a like small tank like that. Basically the air is pumped through and it absorbs all the volatile organic compounds, oxygen, and
to have the waste in-house, that's also bad. I assume that burn it and to separate liquids from
No, this is sealed. Like you don't smell your wastewater piping. This is all sealed. But in the process of like having it run into this vertical ecosystem, like you can see it in this wall here. This has a surface. The water is always subsurface, but just for the case, we've run it like for 6 years now. I think from 2014. And it really never smelled bad. And it's really something that just in case for some people that have this fear, we installed an additional like biofiltration system. We grow plants on that, so it's one more just a plant grower. And it's basically using the nutrients as they are. Volatiles can be another nutrient for the plants.
Can you overload it?
Overload it. we have really forced the arbitration system, and in just that small size, it's already like over capacity. We have calculated that for the arbitration system, it would actually need like a very small size, and for this amount of like arbitration, which is just a barrel like that, we would need like at least 10 times the capacity to really load it fully. So it's already oversized.
Now I have one question for you to stand up again. Would you like to live in a house full of buildings? Okay. All pro here, or almost. Okay. So thank you, Teresa, for convincing us that living in a houseful building would be desirable. Before we have time to discuss all the technical details and also the money, the market sizes and the strategies of Vienna outside at the bar, I have a few more slides before we finish here the official part. It's if you want to be more involved into Houseful, we have like a co-creation process as part of it, and there will be a co-creation workshop still planned in person in Styria in October. If you're interested to join, maybe it will be put online like the last one was, and there's like an ongoing process that we are happy to have new members. I also have here a few paper to fill out if you're interested, then we can contact you, or you contact us, you find it on the website. As promised in the beginning, we also want to offer the possibility for a stand-up impulse talk from you. Is anyone interested in taking the red chair on the imaginary red chair? Sure? You can also just stand. But we have microphone problems. Maybe next time. It's always an option at our events. You can contact us also on our social media platforms. We have a newsletter that we send out the events and our project updates that you can sign up in the entrance area or online. And we have another event coming up end of October, a training session for business on circular economy, how to implement it, with Andreas Ellenberger here in the front and Johannes and Clemens from our team. So if you're interested, you also find this on the website or can ask us more about it. And the next stand-up innovation, usually we do it after a few months, but now we're not sure how it will be feasible, but we want to do something during the Circular Cities Week. So we will let you know when we've decided for an online or offline format or what it will be. So that's from my side here for the official part. Thank you for all the speakers for your interesting talks and for all of you coming here, and we can enjoy the nice summer evening in the cool courtyard of the Sophienspital now. Thank you.